as a civil society actor, and particularly as EF Small Center, there are some partisan issues that are not for me.
They are not for you.
Yeah. So you mentioned this Keba Madi Bojang, is it?
NPP, yes.
Yeah. For example, I don't know him, but as a citizen, he has a right to form his party.
Yes.
I have no problems about that. Now, UDP, whatever comes there or not, that's not my business. I mean, that is up to them. NPP, how they formed coalition again. Now, as a rights activist and as a center, what concerns me and our center is to recognize, first of all, that political parties are constitutional creations. The Constitution has set the governance system in the Gambia in such a way that government is run by political parties. We can have independent candidates that also are provided, but political parties run the government. Political parties produce presidents, National Assembly members, mayors, chairpersons, councillors, and these are the people in charge of our institutions of governance. So that means political parties are a legitimate target for the center. All right. It's a legitimate target because they are institutions, national institutions created to assume state power, to which we will pay our tax, and we will hand over our rights and our, powers for them to manage the resources and affairs of this country.
On our behalf.
So whatever happens,
hence our concern.
Our concern.
Yeah.
All right. So in that concern, I care about governance, internal governance, that our political parties should adopt, should uphold high democratic standards in their decision making, in their leadership, in their membership, in their management, in their finances and everything. They should be transparent and accountable. All right. So we need to know their sources of funding, which they don't want to disclose.
Yes.
Because ultimately that is critical. In terms of the sovereignty of this country, in terms of the constitutionalism of this country, in terms of the human rights of citizens, that our political parties are not clients, are not turned into clients of certain benefactors or patrons or interests. So our political parties should be transparent in terms of their financial, outlook. Yeah. So those are issues that. But
from what you have seen so far, how transparent are political parties? We recently had people donating, and that was in the case of the NPP fundraising. People criticized them. I had people criticizing them.
Yeah.
And the UDP also have fundraising. I mean, they go all around the diaspora and raise funds. So you were trying to say your concern as a center is how and who donates them and under what conditions.
Yeah. So, and this is why the election law is important. That law, which is also not addressed there fully, should address the issue of party financing. It is important. I hope they will put it there. But all the political parties also should take that individual responsibility that we are, and that's why they say the opposition are government in waiting.
Yes.
So it means you are effectively a government. You are just not either in power or not in power. So they need to take individual responsibility to be transparent and accountable to Gambians. So right now, NPP and which we will deal with as a center. We are preparing to deal with that. Political party transparency and accountability. We visit their websites. Some have websites, some don't have websites. Some of their websites are not updated since 10 years ago. Some, right. So they need to be transparent. So we need to know, like NPP, what is your source of funding? How did you build your new headquarters? How are you maintaining your new headquarters or bureaus? At the same time, UDP, open bureaus around the country sometime a few years ago. We need to know where did the funding come from. All right, how are you sustaining these things? All right, I mean, they're the same thing. They are doing activities. GDC is the same thing. So we are looking at that to come up with a statement to demand that these parties need to be transparent. In terms of governance, again, we are saying political parties need to have standards. all right, of governance, in terms of their leadership, in terms of their membership. For example, political parties should have term limits. All right.
That's important. Why?
Yeah. Because it's all the governance to prevent self-perpetuation in power, which is very prevalent in our political parties. So our political parties. Cham, today, if you want certain parties, constitutions of our political parties, you have a problem. They are not even transparent in terms of sharing. I mean, some of the parties, their constitutions, and their constitution is a public document. So, but the constitutions need to uphold democratic values.
Just as it's applicable in case of the state.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you said, there are governments in waiting. They should start from within before they assume power.
And it's best practice. Go and log into a political party, say, a website in Ghana, for example, or in the US or UK. You will see donations to the parties. So that every political party should have a donation policy. Because, for example, I may donate to UDP or NPP or some other party, but I don't want my name to be published. For example.
But
that should be the policy to guide that.
And they can look at my profile and say, well, I'm afraid we
you will not take your money.
Yeah.
But also where the political parties are also assessed, they should be able to disclose at a certain level. That the political party is, the donors are disclosed. Yeah, so there should be a policy on donation. And I doubt any of our political parties have a donation policy, for example. So we need...
They will take every butut from anybody who walks.
Yeah, so we need that kind of governance system. Time limits, but also in terms of leadership, decision-making processes. Now, if you look at our political parties, the way they are structured, you have a central committee, and they have a youth wing, and a women's wing,
a regional committee, or whatever.
But what is the level of involvement, participation of the youth wing, for example, or the women's wing, or other structures in terms of decision making? How do they influence decisions in the political parties? So that decision is not concentrated in one person or a very few sort of people, all right, as it were in many of the parties.
Yes, and like the same people in the leadership of the parties for centuries.
Yeah,
so to speak.
So that is it. But also, inclusion, diversity and inclusion. How are our political parties diverse in terms of their leadership, for example? How diverse are they in terms of gender, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of regionalism, in terms of other factors, but also the membership in terms of disability, for example, and other factors. So we need to structure our political parties to modernize and civilize them and democratize them. So that, and why this is important, Charm, is that if a political party is democratic in itself, abiding by good governance principles and practices, when that political party assumes state power, it continues on that path of democracy, of good governance.
It would have been in their values.
Right. But if a political party is not democratic, when it assumes power, it will not be democratic. The government will not be democratic because they are not used to it.
Absolutely.
So it is in our interest that political parties are democratic. Yes. It is important that they are democratic and they practice it, and we see that they are practicing it. And that also is very good, because then you also allow for recruitment, for participation, for professionalization, institutionalization. Now, go to any of our political party headquarters. Do they have, and now I'm talking about structure, why we need to really modernize and civilize and democratize our parties. You go to our political party structures. Do you find professionals there who are employed by the party dealing with communications, monitoring and evaluation, policy analysis, all of those things. So that today, if I go to any party headquarters, I say, look, what is your party policy on climate change? Will they be able to show me, here's a document, our climate change, which is continuously updated.
And they should even have a shadow climate minister, environment minister.
Exactly. So we need to really structure our political parties, just like a government in waiting. And that's what this is called, government in waiting. So it has to be in practice a government in waiting. So that, on every issue, the political party has a structure, has a responsible person who are able to deal with this. All right. So that the party headquarters is not just some camp or some place, grand place where people go and sit to do attire and chat and do the gossiping and go home. And thinking that the party is the responsibility of the party leader or few of those executive members. And we cannot run a party like that. You know, and then of course I think our parties also need some modernization. You see, this idea of party leader becoming flag bearer, it has to be separated. You know, in the sense that I think we should get to a point where if I a party leader, party president, party chairman, you cannot stand for party for flag bearer. That you know, and if yeah,
well, many of them are sounding like that. I don't know whether they in true nature, in actual nature, they are like that, but
no,
sounding that kind of thing. That, okay, being a secretary general and party leader does not necessarily translate to be flag bearer.
Yeah, but the point is, if you are a party leader or party secretary general,
yes,
you eventually can also become the flag bearer at the Congress. You can be elected.
But
what I'm saying is, if you are party secretary general, party leader, party secretary general, we should be based on a term limit.
Yes.
As long as you are that, you cannot stand as flag bearer. The flag bearer has to be different party.
Different party.
All right.
Well, okay.
Yeah, because the whole idea is, how do we decentralize power? How do we prevent power and influence, you know, of one person dominating our party decisions and actions?
Yeah.
All right. Because what?
Well, that's where the problem is.
Because the practice
traditionally, it's even hard to imagine that the leader of the party wouldn't be
the flag bearer.
The flag bearer.
Yeah, and that now that is creating agitation in a lot of the parties now.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and because one problem is all of those party leaders or secretary general and party leaders have also been there, you know, some for decades, some, you know, 5 years, 10 years, and so on. Right. So we need to, all our parties need to go back to the drawing board to begin a restructuring of our political parties, so that and that is where the institutionalization comes, so that we institutionalize our parties in such a way that they now become professionals. You know, I mean, they have a party secretariat, which has its staff, professionals who may not even be party members, but these are people like me or you appointed to come and do a job.
Absolutely.
And you go get your salary, go home.
Well, that's what the NPP said they are trying to do.
Well, you know, let them show us their constitution and then the restructure.
Well, they're putting up structures everywhere and new buildings and new structures.
We need to see the source of those funds.
A fully functional.
Well, as I said, we will come over to see the source of those funds.
Okay.